Hello everyone, and welcome to the Unlearning talk series of the Start Create Cultural Change program. The Unlearning talk series is a series of talk on sustainability and resilience in the sociocultural sector in Southeastern Europe. My name is Maria Luisa Laupodi. I'm speaking to you from Thessaloniki in Greece, and I will be your host for this online event. This event is part of the START program. The program is a capacity building one and a fellowship program, and it supports cultural managers from Greece who are also creative minds and wish to kickstart cultural initiatives that generate a positive social impact on their local communities. So this year, the START program is coming to a conclusion, but it has again supported 30 Greek cultural managers by offering them a professional placement in 30 different sociocultural centers all over Germany. 15 of those cultural managers with the program support have continued in the next phase and implemented their sociocultural initiatives in 9 cities around Greece from December 2019 to June 2020. Following this phase, the best 3 projects, and that had the greatest impact, have received the Scaling Award. So I would like now to share with you a video showing what the START program is and the social impact it has generated all over the country. So the START program is coming to a conclusion this year, as I just mentioned. And while thinking how we would like to conclude the program, we understood that a lot of the work that had been developed through the projects could be relevant to other areas in our region. And similarly, other projects could have a lot to share with the fellows of the program. And so we designed a series of talks to spread beyond Greece and Germany and in the Southeastern European space, as very often challenges remain the same when working to go towards sustainable cultural solutions. So the Unlearning talks are designed around 3 cycles. Those thematic cycles are Cycle 1, coping with emerging crises, challenges and trends. Cycle 2, resilient models of sociocultural entrepreneurship. And Cycle 3, building new collaboration methods of cooperation and networks. Each cycle spans over 3 days from Tuesday to Thursday every week. And every day there is a different topic and a very rich and diverse lineup of speakers from Southeastern Europe. So for more information, you can visit the startgreece.net website. And you as an audience can ask any questions you wish by downloading the Slido app, either through the Google Play or the App Store. The event code on Slido is #71659. So let me take you through the program. So today's talk is entitled Overcoming Uncertainty in the Cultural Sector During the COVID-19 Crisis and Beyond. And during the past 6 months, it is true that uncertainty for most of us in the cultural sector on the scale of disruption has been tremendous. So we have seen pre-existing vulnerabilities come to surface, like the precarious livelihoods of artists and cultural workers, or the tight budgets from local authorities shrinking. And in this talk, we hear from a diverse group of change makers, their efforts and their point of view on how to ensure culture has a central role in public policies, and it also contributes to a sustainable future. So before we go into more details, I would like to welcome our international sign language translator, Apostolis Margaritidis. And I would like to mention that creating an online event offers the possibility to many people from different places to participate in the event. But it is also important for us that these kinds of events are also inclusive. So I will take you now through today's program, and we will start with the presentations of our four speakers and then continue with the Q&A. This part of the Q&A, as I mentioned, is participatory by design. So you, as an audience member, can join by sending us your questions and comments. So let me welcome the four speakers to the first Unlearning talk. And I will start with İpek Çınar, cultural manager from Turkey. Olga Dascalli, president of the Mesology Community Council from Greece. Corinna Eichner from the Stadtkultur Hamburg in Germany. And Filip Jovanovski from the Faculty of Things That Can't Be Learned from North Macedonia. So let's start with the first speaker. I would like to invite, to first of all present to you Corinna Eichner, and then invite her to present. So Corinna has studied sociology, journalism, political science, and art history in Göttingen and Hamburg. She worked as a freelance journalist and cultural manager and in adult education. And since 2011, she has been managing director of the Stadtkultur Hamburg, the Regional Association for Socioculture in Hamburg. And since 2017, she has been a member of the board of the Federal Association of Socioculture. And her focus is on urban and district culture, interculture and open society, cultural policy and communication, public relations. So Corinna, welcome. We're very much looking forward to your recent experience in Germany.
Thank you, Maria Luisa, for this introduction. Hello and yassas, everybody. I like to start. The coronavirus has shaken our world. How will our societies recover from the shock? How can they avoid the exception becoming a permanent state? And how will our societies change in the face of this unprecedented challenge? Almost nothing will run smoothly in 2020. So much seems to have become impossible, and it is not yet clear what will be possible in the future. But is it a sacrilege to speak of the crisis as a chance, as an opportunity? We had to or could experience how much people miss culture when it is no longer possible due to Corona, or at least not as possible as we were all used to. What is absolutely impressive is how creatively and flexibly culture, and especially socioculture and its actors, adjust to the situation. But what really helps socioculture, and we could see this very clearly this summer, is the mutual exchange, the cohesion. In a situation that overwhelmed everyone, culture and its actors, but even more so politicians and administrations, the bundling of information, the organization of the flow of information was of existential importance. It was, and still are, the associations, whether at the federal or state level, that made it clear to politicians and administrators what culture needs in order not to die from the consequences of COVID-19. The associations have negotiated about aid for culture and partly awarded it on behalf of the governments. The German governments and as well the governments of the different German states have provided a lot of money to save the culture through Corona. At the same time, the associations organize the flow of information to the cultural actors and pass on everything that's important in a bundled way. In Zoom conferences organized by us, we bring the scene and the administration together so that not every question has to be asked by everyone. This saves both sides a lot of work and ensured that the right decisions could be made. Just as important was and is the exchange among each other, what is also possible under Corona conditions and what ideas there are. We as associations have always had and still have the role of making the energy and creativity with which socioculture operates visible to the public and politicians. Organizations, cohesion, solidarity can thus contribute to stability, professionalism, and ultimately to resilience. Of course, this does not only apply to associations, but also to centers, especially in the field of socioculture. They bring people together, organize events, can support individual artists, and offer resources that can be used jointly. In the time of Corona, what has always been right becomes apparent. Come together, think together, exchange ideas, use resources together, be strong together, and use digitality. We can only achieve resilience and future competence if we work together and are well organized and use every tool we may get. Thank you.
Corina, thank you very much. I would like to invite now Olga Dascalli, President of the Mesology Community Council in Greece, and introduce you to her. Mesology is a historic part of Greece, Olga says, surrounded by a natural environment. And she is an attorney at law, having specialization in public procurement law, European law, and public administration. She has been driven by the value of freedom and the love for nature, and she participates in citizens' initiatives concerning urban planning, participatory democracy, and active citizenship. Being a scholar of the Robert Bosch Foundation, she practiced cultural management, starting the initiative's Roots Are Roots. She's representing the Independent Citizens Initiative for the community. So Olga, please, you can start your presentation.
Thank you, Maria Luisa. Thank you very much for inviting me in this talk. So I would like to start by giving you a brief description of the powers and responsibility of the Community Council, because here today I'm going to speak with this role. Here in Greece, when it comes to administration, we have the central state, we have the regions, the municipalities, and then we have the community councils, which are public representative bodies. And actually, it's the closest body to the citizens. In 2018, it is the first time in Greece that by law, in separate elections, we have community councils. And actually, there was given the possibility to independent candidates that they do not support a political party or a mayor to participate in the elections. That's why we decided, a group of active members of our community, to participate, and people here in Mesology, they gave us the chance to be a part of the council. Unfortunately, the new government disregarded the decisive powers of the councils, and after its installment, the only powers that gave to community councils were advisory ones. So the only thing that we can do is actually propose, and we cannot decide. Nevertheless, I'm going to describe you a little bit the powers that a community council has when it comes to culture. So we can issue opinions and proposals either on our initiative or upon referral by municipality bodies. And our power and responsibility is to protect natural and cultural environment, to organize cultural events and the general development of the community in cultural, intellectual, and social matters, And also, I added one more power that we have, is that we are responsible for the function of municipal institutions, legal entities, and municipal companies. And this is important because most of the museums and theaters in the municipalities of Greece, they have a form of municipality institution. So I'm going to give you some examples of action, what we did in Mesology this year, that we also had the whole humanity had to face the pandemic. I'm going to give you some examples of how we tried as a community council to participate in these powers. We maintained a lot of cultural structure, so we gave part of our budget in order to maintain buildings or pieces of art. We also did the proposals about creating cultural strategy for our municipality. We suggested a lot of content when it comes to local events. Also, we advocate for culture because we believe that it's part of our everyday life and not a luxury. We became a mediator between a public and a private body, so we cooperated with them in organizing several cultural events. And last but not least, we gave information to citizens and private bodies how to apply for private or public sponsorships. I would like to give you some facts about what's happening in Greece, because I heard before what is going on in Germany and how much money were given to culture. Unfortunately, here in Greece, it was not exactly the case. So most of the public funds due to the decisions of our central state are given to defense, administration, health, education. Some people, they think that culture belongs to education. Local governments that have undertaken some responsibilities from the central state, they do not have the corresponding resources to fund cultural activities. We have several municipal museums, theaters that are abandoned. And certainly there is lack of cultural policy in all levels of our state. Also in the countryside, I have to say that most of the culture professionals, they cannot survive because there are not enough jobs. But there are some positive factors. Lately, there were some open calls from the Ministry of Culture in order to fund activities. The local government, they did some funding, and actually they did it with open procedures, and that was for the first time, especially in my region, in West Greece. And there were many discussions and publications about how cultural policy is a factor of regional and social development. I am sure that in order to ensure culture in public policies, we have a lot of things to do in the future. But I do believe that we have to remind to ourselves that culture is a human right, and we can find it in Article 27 of the of the United Nations Convention. And this is something important that we should not disregard. We should define what actually culture is, because there's a lot of confusion with civilization or with what activities are cultural, which professionals belong to this sector. We have to realize that it's part of our life and its value is intangible. In order to put culture in the map of funding, we have to create a strategy and a program, and this is really important also for the municipalities, but also for the whole regions. And then we have to go on the ground and see the human resources and the initiatives. There are a lot of initiatives who just need support, traineeship, and some more expertise. Last but not least, I do believe that we have to realize that we have to put in public budgets a separate cultural sector and establish open procedures. And we have to realize that decisions and decision-making procedures are made by people, and we have to choose wisely our public representatives, because they are the ones who decide about funding, about strategy, about everything. So this is my first input to our discussions, and I cannot wait for the Q&A. Thank you very much.
Hey, Olga, thank you very much. I think we're all looking forward to the Q&A. Let me move on to the next speaker, İpek Çınar, Cultural Manager from Turkey. İpek was born in Ankara and completed her studies in political sciences at METU. She encountered photography in 2011 and has been working on creating a subjective language using both photography and text since then. And in addition to this, she takes interviews for various publications, works as a content advisor in documentaries and projects both nationally and internationally. And she has contributed to many such publications, exhibitions, and talks, and has been the co-editor of Orta Format magazine since 2014. İpek, our virtual floor is yours.
Thank you, Maria Lucia, for your kind introduction. My name is İpek Çınar, and I am from Turkey. I am a photographer and a professional editor in the fields of contemporary arts. And today I will try to explain the current situation in Turkish contemporary art scene and offer some humble solutions. I am sorry, okay. Yeah. First of all, in Turkey, in the fields of contemporary art, we don't have any governmental support. That makes us very vulnerable, especially in these kind of crisis moments. But we already know how that we should have our own survival kits. So there's a kind of irony in here. And maybe the Turkish economic condition is not very well for a long time. For example, last week, the Turkish lira had its lowest currency against the American dollar through its history. So the scenario is already dark, and nobody expects a governmental support for art and culture industry in these days. Normally, Istanbul had a great international scene, but because of the pandemic situation, it is in a deprivation too. And even though the local art sector started to normalize within September, the main thing that we should be afraid of is going back to our old normal. So we should investigate a new normal, because our old normal, our normal does not work out anymore. So as I am both the artistic and editorial part of the equation, I want to start with a personal experience, personal anecdote. At the beginning of the pandemic period, I decided to look at my funds to plan my budget, and I realized that I have three funds, three capitals. My time, because I'm young, I have a whole life beyond me. My relationships, I worked and participated in many volunteer projects in my youth. I have artist friends that I grew up together. So there's a kind of arts network as a capital. And finally, double amount of minimum wage in Turkey. So in normal times, these three were almost enough for me or for an artist. But I guess the COVID situation was an epiphany moment that we can understand our situations clearly, because these are the basic funds for precarious class, and we are a part of that class. We don't have any assurance. We work in short-term or project-based works. In Turkey, we don't have a legal status as freelancer or as an artist. And with the COVID era, many gallery workers lost their incomes. Many artists who were about to open an exhibition lost these opportunities. And especially, even though it is not my field in general, the music and stage performances took a major blow. And as I said before, the Turkish government did not provide any financial support for the artists, even though even if there are many artists cannot get this kind of support because of their political views. So we had to find our solutions by ourselves again. I am the editor of a photography magazine, Orta Formats, and during the pandemic period, we made a special talk series and listened to problems of artists, art critics, academicians, legal experts, independent initiatives, and cooperation models. And I would like to mention two special initiatives that were established during the pandemic. The first one is omuz, which means shoulder in Turkish. Its goal is give out 1,000 Turkish lira for 100 people for one time only. So you can give or receive a support. People with a good economic condition can donate this money, or people can come together to create to collect that amount together. And it's based on trust, actually. And the second one is Artist Support Pledge. This is an international project, and the local versions are available in many countries, actually. Artists publish their work on Instagram with the hashtag Artist Support Pledge, and people look at the hashtag to buy a piece. When an artist sells 5 of their works, they have to buy another work from another artist. So there's a kind of solidarity chain here. And I really like this project because it creates a direct relationship between the artist and buyers. So I can talk about some other projects, but as I don't have so much time, I would like to talk another subject, transparency as an attitude. And I guess the solution is here. We should listen each other more. We should talk about each other. We should talk with each other. We should talk about our wages, our security types, our insurance types. Only by talking about these things, we can understand our situation, we can reposition ourselves, and we can create some standards. In other words, what Olga mentioned, we should define culture again. We should be open to alternative reflexive solutions, especially in crisis moments. And finally, last but not least, we should plan our short-term, medium-term, and long-term strategies independently. So, thank you.
Ipek, thank you very much. I would like to continue with our next speaker, Filip Jovanovski, from the Faculty of Things That Can Be Learned in North Macedonia. So Filip is a visual artist, a cultural worker, and he's co-managing this organization. He graduated at the Faculty of Architecture in Skopje and holds an MA at the Faculty of Fine Arts from the Department of Painting. He usually uses his curatorial approach in his works and creates socially engaged and interdisciplinary art projects. With many solo and group exhibitions held both nationally and internationally in his portfolio, he won the prestigious Golden Triga Award for Best Exposition for his project, This Building Talks Truly, curated by Ivana Vazeva, which represented North Macedonia at Prague Quadrennial of Performance Design in Space 2019. He was one of the authors of the North Macedonian pavilion titled Free Space, which was presented at the Viennese Biennale for Architecture in 2018. He has made about 20 stage designs for theater plays, video and documentary projects, and won several awards. And since 2007, he's artistic director of the Acto Festival for Contemporary Arts in Bitola. So Filip, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Maria, for the introduction. Okay, and thank you for the inspiring presentations. We are really on the similar line of thinking, and I'm really pleased about that. So I will, this is a project that I would like to present. It's a long-term project. I'm working on this in the past 5 years on in different fronts. starting from activism to art. So I will present the case, and then later through Q&A we can precise some questions if there are. But so nice. Okay, so I call it culture as a machine for living, the cinema and revelation building, and as in an invisible public space. So what it's about is a building in the center of Skopje, built in the 40s. How it looks from above. Built in the 40s, it was social housing built for the workers of the railway company of Yugoslavia at that time. So the workers used to live here. What is unique for this building is that it's combination of sharing public spaces, like public space yard inside huge yard, laundries, and cinema inside the building, huge space of cinema inside the building. And it was used for public gatherings of the residents in the 50s, 70s, 60s, 70s, and for screenings of the movies. And the combination of this architectural space and social living is really unique, and it's abundant now after the privatization in the 90s. Almost all apartments are privatized, so the cinema and all other sharing spaces are privatized. So our initiatives mainly was focused of giving awareness again and give back this public space again to the citizens, to the community, and to the function as it was designed in the 40s, with the focus of culture. So I don't know what's. This is the building from the outside. So I will go through these all slides. And so in 2014-15, we have an initiative called If Buildings Could Talk. The idea was to make theater performances about some buildings in Skopje, Belgrade, and Zagreb through some process of researching. This is the cinema, how it looks inside. This is the cinema also inside. We decided to work on this building, which is in between period after the Second World War, built the beginning of modernism. It's not still pure modernism, but in the concept of architecture, there are some modernistic approaches. And we decided to start to work with the residents. And at the end, our idea was to produce a theater performance, although we didn't know the final result. So the first step was starting to communicate with the residents, with the people who live there for more than 60 years, and building a trust together with them. So through art, we wanted to advocate about the issues of public space, which was important at that time. The three people, like three people who live there, three volunteers, three people who love the building, were very interested at the beginning to work with us. And they were really happy that someone who is not living in this building is interested to work about the importance of this building. These are some photos from the first meetings. This is how the cinema looked at that time. And we started to organize series of activities inside, festivals. We started to read urbanistic master plans from this part of the city. We started to engage the local community through activities. And then so we spent around 2 years of building a trust with this local community, which was very important process. And then we started to preparing for our performance. And this photo, for example, is part of the process where, together with the residents, we started the process of reading the building as a text. So we started to write stories, memories about the building, what happened here, etc. And this was the somehow basis for the scenario that later was used in the performance. These are some photos from the activities that we organized inside. We organized tours around the building together with the residents. So this was somehow preparing activities. conferences, international insight about the importance of this building. So before this, people knew that there was some space like cinema in this building, but nobody was working actively inside regarding the political importance of this space. There was some music video was shooted here, but nothing serious in the terms of political engagement was organizing around this building. So we started to create series of activities that can engage the community on the line between advocacy and art. So this is the and after 3 years of work with this community, we have premiere of our performance, site-specific performance in the building. So that's how it looks. So actually, the stories of the buildings we translated in a theater language in a scenario that was played by some professional actors. And we invited the audience, and it was like in a border forum between performances guided and guided tour through the building. And this gave, and the performance at the end ended in some of the private apartments of the building. So this had at that time huge impact of the community and on the public. For the first time in the public, the importance of this kind of space was really was made very visible, and the audience and the newspapers tried started to be interested, and also the local municipalities which was very important for us. And in the next phase, we started to communicate, to advocate for this space together with the local municipality at that time. And we are now in that process of, so this is the second performance, for example. We played in different months. This is in November, the first was in September. We played during the rainy days. So we wanted to show that, we wanted to merge somehow the theater, artistic practice and political practice, and engaging the citizens. For example, we made like a strategy, we made like a simulation of council of citizens. So the audience at one time were the residents at the same time. So they were engaged in decision making of what to do with the future of the building. So that was one of the strategies that we were using. And then we have forum theaters as a part of this performance, where we included the public, the audience, to give their opinions about the future of this space and how this space should be governed in the future. So this led us to some proposals to the local municipality, and for example, to the local municipality to create a new model of governing this public space, because although it is still private space, it belongs to the residents by the law after the 90s. Our idea was, and it still is, to show that it should be used for public activities. So also we started. This is part of the installation that we presented at the Prague Quadriennial for design of performance design, where we won the Golden Trigger. So now we are in the process of engaging the local municipality in building this model of governance between the municipality, our organization, and the residents in this building. But it's also important to mention, because I consider this work like durational, 5 years work, consisted of different forms of action, starting from activism to art. It's important how on different levels of engaging and using different forms of art can community be engaged, and art can be presented out of white cube or black box. It can interrupt the real life, and the impact, I think, is huge, because what is very important from the very beginning, we involve the residents in the building very actively in designing all of our activities. So, for example, when we have performance, together with them we wrote the script, and later when we have negotiations and meetings with the mayor, we've done it all together. So this building this trust and informal collective, I think as an approach is very important, especially regarding culture. So it's mixing the audiences and different position in the society. I think it's very important when you are speaking about art and community. So this is the performance that we produced, referring to the process with the building. It was presented at the Prague Quadriennial. So this is the huge model of the building, but in smaller scale. Our motto was motto was, if we can do it here, we can do it everywhere. Actually, so we organized later series of activities again. So we started from the streets, from the building, ended in artistic context. It was the Prague Quadriennial, and then we went back to the real life again after Prague, 2 weeks after Prague, and organized again another activity called Active Cinema. Let's keep it public. So actually, what is also important for this project is to know that it's not isolated. It's connected. Every activity is connected to each other. So we wanted to show and to also again to build this trust to the citizens. Because the residents in general, they are not aware how huge potential can be this sharing public space can produce in their building. They think it's some abandoned space, we don't want to use it, and they don't use it. This is the mayor of the municipality. So also through strategies of collaborating in public with the local authorities, we give bigger visibility to the project. So I think we are out of time.
Yes, please.
Okay, I'm okay. So we can continue in Q&A. I can, yeah.
Thank you so much. It looks like also a very big project, and there's so much to say about it, and from various points of view. So I would like to thank you for your presentation, as well as all the other speakers. And I have to admit that as we will move on to the Q&A, a lot of things are coming up, and I can see a lot of connections between your presentations. And almost all of you have mentioned issues of involvement, of trust, of connecting and sharing a common language. So I would like to start with a question for Corinne. You have all described processes which are in view of helping the cultural professionals, but also the communities. And I was wondering, how participatory is this process in the association on behalf of the artists? So how can you make sure that their voices are heard in the proper way when you need to collect this information and share it with the government or any public body in order to request aid, as you mentioned?
I think the most important, or one of the most important things is that there has to be a discussion at all time. You and you have to have a discussion with all the sides. We don't speak only to the government or the administration or something, and we don't speak out or give only the informations of the government and the administration to the public or to the artists or so on. It has to be a flow of information from both sides. That's, I think, the most important thing. And there is a great chance if all those flow of informations goes through our organizations, and so that we have it in hand, and we can give all the informations that we think is important for the artists to the administration, and the info, and we can ask the administration for the very important things to give them to the artists and to the initiatives and to the centers. So we are a sort of filter, but we have the strong connection to the administration, so that they trust us, and they talk to us for those things.
Thank you, Corina. I would like to kind of ask similarly Olga Dascalli the question, because Olga, you have mentioned quite a few challenges and issues faced in the local community that I'm sure other communities around the region have. So how do you prioritize, in a way, the funding? I mean, how do you prioritize also the issue? How important is one issue more than the other? Corinne just mentioned that there has to be this communication and the trust between you and the citizens, and you and the government or decision makers.
Actually, what we do is that we implemented a series of assemblies. So we did a series of neighborhood gatherings where we first discuss the problems. And one of the questions during the assemblies is giving the possibility to the citizens themselves, give us one or two priorities, because the budget that we handle is very small. Actually, it's 6,000 or 12,000 per year, and we can only do emergencies in our community. So we ask from the citizens themselves to prioritize the things in their neighborhoods. And then during our community council meetings, we did two procedures of participatory budgeting, discussing how we can handle this money, and how to give also some money for maintaining cultural sites or buildings, and what is actually most important for our community. So the procedure that we used, it was the one of going outside, discussing, and then coming again inside in a smaller level and a smaller assembly, and put the priorities. Now, actually, this Sunday, we're going to have an annual report for all these participatory budget and procedures, and we are going to present to the citizens what happened, and we are going to take their feedback. So I think that what we do is that we are transparent and open, and we listen for the priorities, because we do not think that we can know every need in every neighborhood. So we're just open to what is more urgent.
Thank you very much, Olga. I think that the word you mentioned, transparency, is super important. And I think that Ipek, now over to you. You also mentioned transparency as an attitude, I think I noted. And I wanted to address the same question to you. So how can we, or how do you in your community and your projects, how do you have a representative voice towards maybe people who are advocating for your work? Not just the community of artists alone, but how do you convey the message to those who can speak on your behalf maybe, although not so many unions, as you mentioned, exist but what would be the process in your case?
First of all, actually, transparency is really important, as Olga mentioned again, and we should create a new communication models. And I guess the initiatives, especially independent initiatives, are really important in this scenario to create a direct and reflexive and faster solutions. But they are a little bit limited with the short-term solutions, unfortunately. In the long term, we need different organization and communication models. I think what Philip mentioned is really important, to create a direct relationship between the art and the audience or the citizens itself. And I guess the cooperations, associations, or unions are really important, and we should have them more. And for example, ICA, the International Art Critics Association, is a good example for this, because they are they have branches in every country, and they determines the minimum wage for the art critics in every country. We should have these kind of standards, and the way of doing this is communicate each other more and being aware of each other's positions more.
Thank you very much. I think all of us are always open to models that exist, as you mentioned, International Union of Art Critics and so on. So going now to you, Philip, you mentioned the artistic to the activistic and the activistic to the artistic act in your presentation. And again, you also mentioned the trust, which you have been building for 2 years and over, if I understood well. And I wanted to ask you if involvement in this case can be learned, if this process of being involved and recognizing that we have some needs and deciding who is going to represent us, if this process can be learned actually.
I think it can be learned. I think this process with the building, because I worked for a long time, really changed me as not as an artist, as in general as a person, in a positive way. And because it's very hard when you work with the people with different education and background. They're not from arts, they don't understand that, but they have different kind of knowledge. To create like a participative, equal level of communication, especially with people who don't have email, for example. And so you should find different ways of building a trust and communication with them, different from what we are used to. They don't have email, so the agenda for some meeting you cannot send to them. So this, how to say, this is very important in building equal partnership with them. And I think in my case the people felt that, and that's why the project is still going on after the 5 years of working with them. Even we work with them when we don't have a grant. So we started with small grant from European Cultural Foundation, but we continue without grant in different forms. So it can be learned, and I don't know, my how to say, not advice, but recommendation is that my challenge, I will say, is to when you work with local communities, to build this equal partnership. For example, when we have grant, we divided with him as they are part of our organization, and that's very, very important, because it's political decision. It's not only for me, that is political decision how you're going to build your community. Mm-hmm. So that's, and it's successful so far. So if we have more people, it's always that we'll have more impact, but so far I think we are okay.
Okay, thank you very much, Philip. I keep from you the equal participation, and as you mentioned, it can be learned. And I wanted now to ask Corinne if politicians can learn or relearn, in this case, through a process or a request that you as an association are conveying.
Okay. Yes. I hope so. We would all be lost if they couldn't. Yes, but of course we have to teach them sometimes. We in Hamburg say we have to learn them the alphabet of socioculture. If there's a especially if there's a new politician there. Yes, we. One of our the things we do is to make public working and to show them what's really important, what the problems are in the culture. But not only that, but of course, maybe the most important thing is what the impact of culture is. We always have to show them and to remind them what's the importance of the culture.
Thank you very much, Corinne. I would like to take a question now from our Slido up from the audience. And it is one that has to do, as I mentioned in the beginning, with the dynamics of each country, because I really believe that experiences can be shared. So this audience member is asking, and I believe it is to all of our speakers, what are the 3 top problems in each country that artists and cultural workers need to advocate for? And I'm saying this because one of the questions I'm picking is because we have different velocities in our societies, in our countries. So for one thing, we are more advanced in this, and the other, we are less advanced. So I would like to do a kind of tour, starting with IPEC, and take a minute to think about the top priorities. If you would like to share this with us, IPEC and the rest.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I can say 3 of them now, but I think the most important thing in Turkey that we need in our culture sector is rearranging some legal status, such as we don't have a legal status as artists, or we don't have a legal status as non-profit corporation model. And these kinds of things create some these kind of things create problems for artists to advocate their legal rights. In society, we should be more aware of intellectual rights. I mean, it is a right, and what we do is a public service. Sometimes people can forget this. These are the things that comes in my mind now.
Okay, thank you very much. How about you, Olga? If you have your top priorities in the field, maybe you can share them.
Well, I think that in Greece, as IPEC said, we have also a similar problem that we have to find a definition, even for our tax office, when it comes to cultural managers or artists. Many of them, they go there and they have this problem, what kind of job you are doing or in which code we are going to put you. Then for me is always the strategy. either in central level or in municipal level or in community level. And last but not least is the salary, because people should be viable and should get some funding. And now we see that community funding or exchanging just materials or information or connections, unfortunately, does not provide you the things that you need to survive. So I think we should put also this on the table, salaries.
Thank you. These are also very clear, and as you said, we start seeing some similarities with other regions. So maybe Philip, you want to share with us also your top three or any top, let's say, after this long-term experience, of course.
Yeah, my organization is also working in the field of cultural policies and researches, and in the past also 2 or 3 years, we are focused on an issue of non-institutional cultural workers. So the rights of the cultural workers, and we managed so far because we were lucky somehow that the government was changed. So from the right-wing regime, we have 3 years more liberal government of, for example, and the ministries of culture were people from the scene. So we managed to make some changes. For example, in the new law of culture, we added new profession as the cultural workers, like curator, theoretician, people who are not only artists, because in Macedonia there is a legacy from the socialists from Yugoslavia time where only artists can got some beneficiaries from the government, like pension and health insurance. I have this status, but there is no these beneficial benefits for other cultural workers like theoreticians, curators. So what I think should be improved, and we have this kind of advocacy somehow. These rights of the cultural workers which are not employed in the public institutions. So this is what also Olga mentioned about the salaries of the cultural workers. It's still huge questions. We had some initiative, for example, to make like basic income for the cultural workers, which we think is very, very important. For example, we worked more than 15 years in the field and we are so precarious. And I think these models are not sustainable anymore. So maybe going to, how to say, improve the public sector in culture. So maybe merging these initiatives with some public forms of governance or institutions. For example, I don't know, we are also initiating some initiative for creating hybrid institutions, public institutions between the civil sector and the municipalities. So thinking of new models of governance, I think can be one of the directions of improving our work, because art should be culture, as I think Olga mentioned, or who mentioned that it should be part of the right. Culture should be, it's human rights, how you said this in your presentation, and it should be considered like that. It's not like decor or how to say it. So taking from that terms, I think we should fight for public culture, really public funded culture in different forms. So I think there is place for this, but I don't know, societies are so, I don't know how they are. I can speak in Macedonia. Okay, in Macedonia so far we have positive examples, but it's a long how to say,
Long story.
work to do. Long story, yeah.
Okay, so thank you for sharing how things are in North Macedonia. It's really interesting to hear because I think there are always relations to that. And I wanted to ask also Corina to give us your priorities. Of course, you in Germany have quite a strong system and heritage in having associations and unions and advocating in a very organized way. So maybe you can also give us your perspective from being, in some cases a step ahead, but also seeing this through the new, the way our economy and society is today. I mean, I believe it was different when the union was made and had different requests than it is probably today. So maybe those priorities are important.
Yes, I'm sure we have a really different situation in Germany, but that's not that we don't have any problems. And one of the maybe biggest wishes I got is that especially for the socioculture, I would really love to have more visibility. I think most times in Germany, in the focus is mostly the high culture, the big theaters, the opera houses, the big museums, and so on. And it's of course for me the most important thing is socioculture and the impact on society. And so my biggest wish is the appreciation for socioculture, and not only for high culture, should go high.
Okay, thank you, Corinna. I would like to ask maybe Olga. There is the issue of language. I mean, when you speak to a community, you use a different language as a representative than when you speak with a member of a parliament or some other politician, so citizen and a political language. And art can sometimes be, you know, the common language, but how do you see your role in doing this translation in the field?
I think that I have seen many times my role as a mediator or translator from Greek to Greek, because sometimes we try to take a law or a rule and try to explain in ground how this is applied. I do believe that it's better to talk in a simple way, even if you are in the neighborhood, even if you are in the assembly or in the municipality meeting. I don't believe in using specific political words or legal words. We have to keep it simple and clear, because we have to find the substance of the problem and try to give the solution. So I believe that what we do as a community council is that we just use simple language, doing our meetings even now with the pandemic in Zoom, like we do now. And this gives another example of political dialogue, that we don't need to use big expressions or some phrases that actually they are dead phrases. We just have to speak about the problem and how we're going to solve it. So I think that our role is just this of mediator of or even a new example of how we can do politics.
Thank you, Olga. I would like to take a question from the Slido app for IPEC. Our member of the audience says, you say establishing trust is key for the artist support program you have launched. How do you establish this trust among artists and supporters? And again, I would like to refer to this translation process, because I think that artist and supporter is again a different, there are two different groups. So what is your take in this?
I think, first of all, in order to create that trust, and in order to create that trust, we should start to open ourselves I mean, we should talk about our own problems more, because sometimes we are very embarrassed to talk about money issues or insecurities and etc. We should talk about this transparently. And I think when we do this, the communication improves by itself. For example, I mentioned this a little bit. We had a special series during the pandemic. It was a Zoom call series, and we invited artists, art professionals, legal expertise, corporations, etc. But it was an open conversation. And for example, at the end of the conversation, some people who are not in the fields of art, for example, some engineers, some psychologists, started to talk about art, started to express their opinions, and they said that they learned a lot from the series, and they learned a lot about the problems of the artists or art professionals. So the solution starts with expressing ourselves more, I guess.
Thank you, Ipek. I would like to take another question for Corina from the Slido app. Talking about, I mean, Ipek and Olga mentioned the communication, the ease and being simple and not being embarrassed. So I guess there is a lot of challenge in doing this. And the question is, how long is the process to create a new policy in local or regional or national level? And is it a matter only of political will? So I assume that maybe there is also openness on both sides that is needed, as Ipek mentioned. So the audience is asking how long is the process?
Okay. That's a really difficult question. I don't think there's a really true answer I can give. It depends on really different, a lot of really different things. It depends on the political will, yes, that's right, but it depends on the visibility, for example, is very, very important. You have to show and to show the impact, the importance of the cultural work for the society. That is, I think, the point. The impact for the society has to be seen by the politicians so that they can decide that this is one of the points that they have to share, to strengthen, and so on. And how long it will take is that's only it's also a question of the system, the political and administration system. So that's not just one simple answer I can give. I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you anyway. I think it's really, I mean, I will keep from what you said, the visibility.
Yes.
And I think I would like to slowly conclude the Q&A with this and pose this question to the other three speakers. So if we'd say that you have all the challenges in front of you, what would be the most important act of visibility for the kind of work that you do? So I would like to start with you, Philip. So what is for you the most important, the best way, let's say, to be visible for your actions?
It depends. We are working. Yes, our approach is connected with public events, and especially with this using performative tools. for me, experience with creating a theater performance with the community is really positive. Why? Because when you say theater, does when you say theater, it's recognizable as a forum. So the audience know what is theater. Whenever you're going to make experiment or not. So involving the community actively in the projects, I think, can give a higher visibility, because the community will feel part of the process, part of the final product, part of the problem. So I think this always gives, I think that's my experience, visibility to the projects. So involving, and this is the difference maybe from when we're speaking about this community art. I don't want to say the term leftist art, but comparing with this elitistic art, or when you're making art representing the problems, not including the problems in the work. So this, I think, this is the important difference that I would like to mention. So this in my projects, because I have also another project collected with the local communities, I worked a lot with the textile workers in some small cities in Macedonia. Always including the community in the process gives more visibility somehow. Or you can invite a star, like Hollywood star. That is the other approach, but we are not speaking about that. So this is.
Okay, thank you, Philip, for sharing your best visibility tool, involvement, and working with the community. So, Ipek.
I am agreed with Philip, definitely. The public events and direct relationship is really important. And I guess it is another subject, but it is related with this. Creating and maintaining archives are really important. Not forget what we do or what have done before us. And some consultant communities in the government is really important. And maybe some Hollywood celebrities would be good too.
Okay, I'm sure the celebrity idea is going to be very popular in the visibility and advocacy soon. So I would like to ask this last question to Olga.
Yes, I was thinking about it right now. I think that when it comes to representative bodies as the community council, we need, for example, visibility of our decisions, but in a way that people can perceive it, not the long texts. So right now we experiment with some infographics of how to make decisions visible and more understandable. But also we need visibility in terms of how we do these procedures, these assemblies. And I think that mass media should give us more time, either television or radio, to have the discussions of the municipalities or of the community councils online, and maybe find a way to make some conclusions. So I think, yes, in terms of community council visibility, I would consider these two, infographics and more mass media presentation.
Thank you, Olga, very much. We will also keep the infographics. It's quite important to visualize, and as Corina said, this is one of the ways to convey the message and being visible. So I would like to thank once more all of you, all of our speakers. Thank you so much for being here and for responding also to the questions of the audience. And it has been really a pleasure having you in the virtual space we have created. And I really hope that this conversation has been inspired for you as much as it has been for us. And I would also like to thank the production team behind this online event. It has been prepared, if I may say, with resilience and adaptability as well. And of course, dear viewers, I would like to thank you for being in this event today and sharing your questions. And also invite you in our next session tomorrow, Wednesday, September 16th at 18 hours European Eastern Time, with the second talk of our cycle, which is on culture, education, and engagement in the era of social distancing. So if what you heard today is interesting to you, I invite you to share your story by registering at our events page at startgreece.net. And until then, I wish you to stay safe and share the good news on social media. Thank you.